Welcome to the Personnel File, where we look into the career and personality of Star Trek's characters. Today we're addressing the record of the original captain, Captain James T. Kirk. So as usual with the Personnel File, I will be using Prime Continuity Canon to list out the career and, where there are blanks, filling in the missing time with beta content, so long as it doesn't conflict with existing lore. There is some inconsistency with the exact date he was made captain. Some sources say it was when he took over the Enterprise from Christopher Pike, but it's more likely earlier, as the Enterprise wasn't Kirk's first command. There are also an arm's length of awards and commendations, but not all of these have exact dates. James, Jim Tiberius Kirk, was born in 2233, March 22nd, in Riverside, Iowa, Earth, and was named after his grandfathers. He was the first child to George and Winona Kirk, who later had his brother, George Samuel Sam Kirk. He visited the Starfleet War Memorial in San Francisco when he was around 5, inspired by his father's career in Starfleet, wished to explore the stars. In 2246, the Kirk family were on Tarsus 4, where they witnessed the famine and Governor Kodos's eradication of inhabitants to combat the food shortage. A year later, he moved to Grex, but had to evacuate due to Orion activities, and they moved back to Earth. In 2250, he applied to Starfleet Academy at the age of 17, securing the sponsorship of Captain Robert April, and was granted a tour of the USS Enterprise NCC 1701, fresh off its first 5-year mission. In his first year at the Academy, he trained as a Zodiac-class shuttle pilot, and was granted the provisional rank of Ensign when he entered the Command Training Program. He was also assigned a learning position on the training vessel the USS Republic NCC 1371. One of the missions was a diplomatic mission to Axanar, where Kirk was awarded the Palm Leaf of Axanar Peace. At the end of his first year at the Academy, he continued his training at Lunar Station, where he met Gary Mitchell. This year, Kirk was reprimanded for accessing restricted sensor data during the Republic's classified mission in the neutral zone. By 2254, Kirk had maintained his provisional promotion and took the infamous Kobayashi Maru test. He was almost expelled for cheating when he hacked the program to allow a win condition. He was 1 point away from expulsion, but was also awarded a commendation for original thinking. On graduation, his first assignment was to the USS Farragut NCC 1647 under Captain Garovic, where he took the modest position of cargo officer. It didn't take long for him to get noticed, and was soon promoted to lieutenant junior grade and assigned a bridge position as the phaser officer at Tactical Station. He was part of a survey to the planet Neural, where he befriended the locals and advised a non-interference policy to Starfleet. In 2255, he was injured during combat with pirate ships and remained at his post, receiving the Decoration of Valor. He was treated at Starbase 7, where he met Leonard McCoy. In 2256, he was promoted to lieutenant. In 2257, the Farragut was dispatched to Tycho 4, where Captain Garovic was killed in action, and Kirk ordered the ship back to Starbase 16. Later that year, he was assigned as the second officer of the USS Constitution NCC 1700 under Captain Augenthaler. In 2258, he took a promotion to Lieutenant Commander and transferred to the USS Aeolus NCC 588. He appeared as an alumni guest lecturer at Starfleet Academy this year also. In 2258, due to rising Klingon tension, Kirk was assigned, along with 100 others, to Shad Outpost to guard against Klingon aggression. In 2259, he returned to the USS Aeolus. In this year, he transferred a lot from the USS Bonhomme Richard NCC 1712 to the USS Alexander, then in 2260 the USS El Dorado NCC 1722, and took a position as first officer. In 2260, he then took a transfer to the USS Eagle as second officer, though this seeming step back came with a promotion to commander. It was here that he was reunited with Carol Marcus, but their reignited relationship did not last, as Kirk wished to remain in Starfleet while Marcus wished to leave to pursue her scientific goals. Unknown to Kirk, she was pregnant with his son. In 2261, Kirk was promoted to captain rank, becoming the youngest ever at the age of 28. However, in 2262 he took 3 months of shore leave before returning to duty. That year, he was assigned to the USS Alola for a single mission, then transferred to the USS Oxford NCC 751, which was his first true command. A year later, he took command of the USS Lydia Sutherland, where he was able to appoint Gary Mitchell as his XO. Then, the Gyogi incident occurred where the Lydia Sutherland was evacuated and destroyed. Kirk was critically injured during the evacuation. From 2363 to 64, he was recovering in Starfleet's teaching hospital. In 2264, Admiral Kimitake Noguchi pegs Kirk for command of the USS Enterprise, due to return from its latest 5-year mission under Captain Christopher Pike. In 2265, Kirk accepted command of the USS Enterprise, NCC 1701, and undertook the historic events of the original series. He had numerous achievements, including the record for the highest number of first contacts by a Starfleet captain that wasn't surpassed until 2378 by Captain Catherine Janeway. Kirk became one of the first pioneers to reach the galactic barrier at the edge of the galaxy. He made contact with the first Federation civilization and the Gorn hegemony. In 2267, the Enterprise was assigned a risky new form of temporal assignment to 1968 Earth. He was also one of the primary parties of the Organian Peace Treaty of 2267. In 2268, he was assigned a covert mission to steal a Romulan cloaking device, and the Enterprise played host to the delegates of the Babel Conference. In 2269, the Enterprise undertook a survey mission to the galactic core outside of the Great Barrier, and in 2270, the historic 5-year mission ends, with Kirk and the Enterprise's deeds standing out even among the prestigious line of Constitution-class starships. In early 2270, the Rittenhouse scandal occurred, an attempted military coup from Starfleet Admiral Rittenhouse with the USS Star Empire. Kirk's involvement in preventing it solidified Kirk for a promotion to Rear Admiral, and in 2270 his promotion went through, partly as he was one of the few Starfleet officers above reproach by Federation officials. The Commodore rank was in the midst of being phased out at this time too. Kirk was soon requisitioned to serve in the Special Diplomatic Division, where he served until he was made the Chief of Starfleet Operations in 2271. In late 2272, the disruptive probe Voyager arrived in the Sol system, and Kirk reassumed command of the Enterprise from Captain Willard Decker. At the end of the mission, he made the Enterprise his flagship and remained aboard for its second 5-year mission under his command. In 2273, Admiral Kirk and Commander Krall of the Klingon Defense Force agreed to isolate the planet Kragon 5. In 2275, he operated alongside Romulan agents to halt experiments on Levieri 5. In 2277, the second 5-year mission under Kirk's purview ends. Admiral Kirk returned to teach at Starfleet Academy. In 2282, he took an early retirement but didn't stay away long. In 2284, he returned to take a more active role in the Admiralty, alongside resuming his duties to teach at Starfleet Academy. A year later, in 2285, he encountered Khan Noonien Singh and was forced to utilise the USS Enterprise, now a training vessel for cadets, to stop the augment. During the conflict over the Genesis planet, Captain Spock was killed in action. Not long after, Admiral Kirk, alongside several other crew members of the USS Enterprise, stole the Enterprise to travel back to the Genesis planet and recover and revive Spock. The USS Enterprise NCC 1701 was self-destructed to prevent Klingon capture, and during the events, Kirk's son David was killed. Upon returning to Earth, the whale probe incident occurred and Kirk had to utilise time travel to save the planet, adding to the extensive list of temporal incursions. In 2286, James Kirk was pulled up for his theft of the Enterprise and received a demotion to captain and a permanent halt in rank. He was assigned captaincy of the USS Enterprise NCC 1701A, a Constitution refit vessel. In 2287, Kirk survived an assassination from Garth of Izar, who had begun to slip back into insanity after his rehabilitation. In 2287, the planet Shakari was discovered as the Enterprise breached the Great Barrier at the centre of the galaxy. In 2293, The Khitomer Conference was held due to the efforts of the Enterprise crew, and a peace treaty was established with the Klingon people, replacing the tenuous Organian peace treaty. The Enterprise A was decommissioned in 2293, but the Excelsior class USS Enterprise NCC 1701B was nearing completion. However, later that year, Kirk was presiding as a guest aboard the USS Enterprise B for its launch, but the ship encountered the Nexus energy ribbon, rescuing El-Aurian refugees. During the incident, Kirk was apparently killed from deflector control, when in reality he entered the Nexus. The latter part of this event was unknown, however, and Kirk was officially listed as KIA for 78 years. Then, in 2371, Captain Jean-Luc Picard entered the Nexus and returned with Kirk on Viridian 3 to stop Dr. Tolian Soren. During the fight, James T. Kirk was killed. His final words being recorded as, "It was fun, oh my." With this, Starfleet's most famous captain's career ended, with him saving worlds, as he always had. Kirk was often described as a cowboy of diplomacy in occasionally less than flattering terms. However, he was equally, if not more so, praised for his actions and moral standing. He was considered a passionate individual who would follow right from wrong, even if it put him at odds with others, even utilising deception and duplicity if it served a greater good. This made him seem lucky at times, as he was willing to balance bluffs against an opponent's motivation, and often succeeded. He spent most of his Starfleet Academy career chasing the command program, but soon learned that he was adept at tactical thinking, whether in combat or diplomacy. This tactical mindset was both an asset and a flaw, as he always believed there was an option to succeed, quoted as saying, "I don't believe in no-win scenarios." When he ultimately encounters a genuine situation without a perfect outcome, it takes his longtime friend Spock to devise a solution. Kirk had a reputation for engaging in confrontation too readily, but acknowledged this aggressive streak in himself and seldom took violent action if another less confrontational course were present. He put diplomacy first and had no tolerance for discrimination or prejudice within and without his crew. He also did not allow for his authority to be challenged, but was willing to accept feedback and criticism in private. He was guided by his own moral compass that reflected many of the values of the Federation, and upheld these values even when it put himself at risk, sustaining numerous injuries throughout his career. As seen in his career, he would occasionally bend or even disobey Starfleet orders in favour of following his own principles, and was willing to justify his actions. His charismatic command style unified his crew, and even won over some of the Admiralty, creating a loyal following of individuals who often found their own moral virtues influenced by Kirk's own. He therefore earned a reputation as a hero, as much as his reputation for playing fast and loose with the minutiae of protocol. James Kirk's career seemed focused on climbing the ranks, even if it meant taking numerous transfers within a year, and at one point taking a reduced position from XO to second officer to maintain his upward momentum, and the majority of his Starfleet career was spent in the command chair. He never chased glory, but likewise appreciated it when his accomplishments were recognised, placing a great pride in his career and specifically his Medal of Honor. This shows that he was naturally drawn to exploration, but exploration with influence. He wanted to be in command, not simply a passive observer of new events and locations. This rapid rise through the ranks to reach captaincy would later bite him, as he was elevated to Admiral relatively quickly too. He regarded this promotion with mixed feelings, feeling duty-bound to serve Starfleet, and now in a position to shape it, but at the same time being removed from the frontier expansion he craved. In fact, as an outsider looking at his records and actions, General Chang once described Kirk as insubordinate, unprincipled, career-minded opportunist with a history of violating the chain of command whenever it suited him. Chang's opinion is one formed by many who simply observe the clinical nature of the official record. but Kirk's life is one built on morals and emotion as much as law. However, he would internalise a lot of his trauma and pain, the death of Spock, his son David, his brother Sam. This fed into the darker side of his personality that he often repressed, but could surface in moments of weakness or instability. As he matured, he learned to use his pain to guide his compassion, and internalised anger for combat.
We lose them, we lose ourselves. I don't want my pain taken away, I need my pain!
Wearing his emotions openly often led him to involve himself romantically with many women, and he often used his charisma to disarm and even persuade members of the opposite gender to help him. Despite most of his affairs not even going further than a kiss, Kirk was a romantic at heart who believed in love over all, but his commitment to the crew and his ship always came first. He had a great appreciation for history, especially American history, and idealised many historical figures from scientific, military and political backgrounds. He also enjoyed horse riding and reading, and in fact, in his academy days, he was considered a studious bookworm by his classmates. He spent a great deal of time staying in shape in his youth, enjoying activities such as sparring and mountain climbing. Kirk's career is full of as many reprimands as commendations, but his command style and actions suited the era of expansion Starfleet and the Federation was in, where a more lenient approach to diplomacy and a diverse combat portfolio helped far more than the more regimented climate of later Starfleet. It takes captains like James Kirk to trailblaze a path through the stars, so that captains like Picard can follow. But Kirk managed to do it while holding fast to a moral integrity that does his record credit, and forged a close-knit community around the man who respected him, even if they sighed with exasperation at times. It was all a part of his charm. Thanks for listening. This episode has been a long time in the making, but let's look at some Kirk-centric episodes. City on the Edge of Forever is a poignant moment where Kirk has to preserve the timeline, and we see his commitment to the greater good is truly tested. And to see Kirk's tactical ingenuity, Balance of Terror is always worth a watch. Of course, I'll have to suggest the Wrath of Khan film for the transformative chapter of Kirk's life, where we see him transition into the role he would later assume, where his past catches up with him in a changing Starfleet. Being a captain and one of the main three of the original series, he obviously appears in every episode, so there's a lot of content to be had throughout, but these are a few highlights from me. What's yours, or your favourite Kirk moment? Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I've been Rick. Goodbye.